All right, this is going to be a little bit longer video because it's a gun from the Cold War, and I'm a nerd about that. So just stand by. So this is the Hungarian PA-63. Now, my two favorite gun manufacturing periods is the tail end of World War II and all the Cold War, because they were doing some wild stuff with some wild cartridges and just having a ball. Honestly, they're like Kel-Tec and PSA before Kel-Tec and PSA. You know what I mean? They're just gun manufacturers, especially in Europe, were just an early John Moses Browning. They were just hitting it off, you know. But that being said, let's get into it. So this was, how to put it, started early designs in the late 50s. And they started producing them in 1963 and stopped production in 1990. And now, I don't believe this, but my research said they're still in service. And I don't know how or why. When, you know, even if you're concerned about price point, you got older gen Glock 19s or Glock 17s that can well outperform this thing. So, I don't know why it would still be in service. But, excuse me. But, that being said, let's get into it and why they made it. And, you know, what ideas they took from it, or what ideas they took to make this. So, FEG, the company which made this gun, saw the Walter PPK and was like, wow, that looks great. Let's make something like it, but way worse. And that's what they achieved. And the reason they did that is because you got to understand, in the Cold War, early stages of the Cold War, a lot of countries were going to 9x19 Parabellum and 5.56 NATO and 7.62 NATO. And that's all your NATO countries. Now, your Eastern Bloc countries, communism, didn't have access. They weren't going to do that, you know, because they had 7.62x39, they had the 9x18 Makarov, and things like that. So, FEG was like, I like the PPK, but and we're not chamber at 9x19, you know, because it's a NATO round. So they took the Soviet Union's 9x18 Makarov and chambered this little thing in that 9x18 Makarov. And not to be confused with the pistol, the Makarov pistol from the Soviet Union, because the Makarov from the Soviet Union shares absolutely no parts with this thing. It's basically almost completely designed after the Walter PPK. And like I said, they made it a lot worse. So we're going to get into that here. So this is aluminum. Aluminum lower. And on the top is a high polish steel, black steel slide. As you can see, it's reflecting off my camera light. And that is something you don't see in a lot of modern duty guns or combat pistols, if you would like to think. Like, think about like the Beretta M9 or 1911 Glock, FN. You don't see a lot of high polished slides because naturally in a military and combat environment, you don't want something that's reflective. But this is communism in 63 in the Cold War. They didn't give a crap, okay? So this was actually easier to mass produce and cheaper. So they went with it because communism sucks. And all in all, as a pistol, I've only put about 100 rounds through it. And I'll be honest, it works, you know. That's about all I can say. It works. Because on the double action portion of this trigger here, which we will show, make sure it's clear. It is clear. So we're going to go into double action here. So this is, oh god, I'd say like a 7 to 8 pound, if not more, trigger pull in double action. It is horrendous. But in single action, it's not bad at all. Single action, it's very, very okay. It's almost like a single action is like a Glock trigger after you've hit that wall. And like I said, it works. Now, it does have a fixed barrel, fixed and pin barrel, which in single action along with the fixed barrel, it does provide some sort of accuracy, I would like to say. It makes, like most fixed barrel guns. But in this case, for a small frame gun, it really does, it does help it. It does kind of take up for the horrendous trigger pull and the poor finish and the ability to rust by looking at it. So, all in all, this is the Hungarian PA-63 in 9x18. You can get these very cheap, and I got this one because A, another carry gun never hurts, but B, it's a piece of history, and I love guns that have history behind it. And I know this gun was made between 1963 and 1990 and issued to an Eastern Bloc communist bad guy. So, it's a pretty cool gun, and I just thought I want to share that with y'all. So, thanks for watching, and don't forget, praise the Lord, pass the ammo.